in a math class. And we were taking a test on vectors. And the teacher said, if you like this and you do well, you should be an engineer. At that point, I had no idea what being an engineer meant, and I didn't know if I was going to do well in the test or not. But I took the test and I aced it. Everybody else in the class flunked, so I decided maybe I was supposed to be an engineer. About that same time, there was an opportunity. They were having a nuclear engineering camp at NC State for the summer. I also didn't know what nuclear engineering was. But I knew I might like to go to camp for the summer, so I applied and I got in. So I spent 2 weeks looking at half-lives. I got to run a nuclear reactor, but I realized that really wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So they gave us a day that we got to go and see all of the other engineering departments. So there was a mechanical engineering department, there was an electrical engineering department, there was a civil engineering department, which happened to be right across the street from the building I was spending those 2 weeks. So I went over to that building and I started looking at the boards. And there were pictures of buildings, there were pictures of people outside, there were pictures of people with their hands dirty. And I went, this might be something I like to do. Because I like to be active, I like to go outside, I like to manage different things all at one time. So I walked in and started asking, what is civil engineering? And one of the professors sat down and he said, well, you could design a bridge. Oh, okay, but that means I have to sit at my desk. He said, well, we have environmental engineers, which is a part of civil engineering, that help plan wastewater streams and how plans come together. And I thought, well, again, sounds interesting, but maybe not. And then he showed me these pictures. He said, we have a construction option. These are project managers. These are people who build buildings. And I went, I think I want to learn about that. So 10th grade, I went back to high school and I said, I'm going to go to NC State Civil Engineering. I was excited. I walked into the office to tell what I wanted to do when I went to college, and I was told I could not do that. That there was not many chances for women in civil engineering, and maybe I wasn't smart enough to get in. Needless to say, I never heard that, and I said, I'm going to do this anyway. And many times I want to email that person or call that person and tell her never to give anybody else that kind of advice. So part of my message today is you can do anything you want wherever you come from and whatever you do, and don't listen to anybody else. So if you didn't hear anything else I said about being a civil engineer, because that applies to being anything, there's nothing you can't do. So fast forward, I did get into NC State. I did go to civil engineering school. I did do construction option, which in school was great. It's a lot of math classes, which got me through. Again, I am not the smartest person you're ever going to meet, but I worked very hard. And my math classes, fortunately, kept me in A's, because I can tell you my chemistry class, I was happy to get out of with a C. My physics class got better, and once I got through that first 2 years of school and got into the design classes, the planning classes, there were scheduling classes and how to schedule to build a building, how to design buildings, because I did have to learn design. I had to go through concrete design and steel design, all parts of how it's put together. And then I finally got out of school and said, okay, now time to have a job. So I interviewed with a lot of different companies. Actually, my first round of interviews with 30 different companies. And I kept walking in going, I don't know, I'm not sure I want to do this. Finally, I got to McDonald York Building Company, which is where I am today and have been for 18 years. But they didn't let me start as president and CEO. I started as an estimator. So what is an estimator? An estimator is the person who sits down and puts together the price for what a project's going to cost. Sometimes there are plans and specifications and it's all detailed out and you're measuring, you're coming up with quantities, but you're building the project in your head and on paper before they go out in the field to determine how much this is going to cost. Sometimes you walk in the door and a client says, I'm thinking about building this building, these are the needs that I have in it. Maybe it's going to be a research building, so there are labs and there's a little bit of office space, and they tell me the type of research that they're going to do so you understand what kind of gases they may need. But again, in your mind, you're able to build this building without a lot of information. And so you come up with how much the project's going to cost. So I did that for about 6 months in our main office. And we had the opportunity with one of the companies out here in the park. So Glaxo then was about to go through a merger with Burroughs Wellcome. And they needed, we were doing work for them, and they needed an estimator on site. So I raised my hand and said, hey, I want to go. Again, I've only been out of school 6 months, but I saw an opportunity to do something different and to move my career forward. And the company said, go ahead, if you want to do that, go on out there. So I got to go on site at an international pharmaceutical campus to help them with their integration, which was a great experience. I got to work with scientists every day. I got to work with executives. I got to work with their engineering department that was always having a lot of training. And anytime they went, I'd raise my hand and say, can I go with you? That training was in world-class design build concepts, which is where they bring the design team and the construction together to perform the whole project. And it's not always done that way. So I got to go to seminars and different things while I was out there. But about 6 months into doing that, again, I raised my hand and asked my boss, okay, I'm estimating. I'm helping the project managers with their cost control. I want to be a project manager. I want to do my own project. So my next piece, and they said, well, you have to keep doing the estimating, but we'll let you be a project manager. Well, what does that mean? In a construction company, a project manager is that person who is in charge of the whole project. They're the person who controls, who manages, who creates this project. So from the beginning, they get involved with helping to manage the design team. Then they create a schedule for how long the project's going to take. They get all of the participants together, which are all the subcontractors. You'll have an electrician. You'll have somebody come in and put in the carpet, paint the walls, build the walls. Not in that order. You build them first. But it's putting all of that. It's orchestrating the whole project. So if you think of a choir, it's the person sitting in front of that choir getting everybody to sing together. That project manager sometimes works kind of like a circus act. 3 rings, keeping it all together. And that was fun because I'm the type of person who likes to have a lot of different things going on. You're also solving problems because I can remember in the middle of one of those projects, they came in, we were going along, things were going really well, and they said, look, our executives are flying in from the UK. We need to finish this project 2 weeks early. This was a 10-week project. 2 weeks out of 10 weeks is a lot of time. So I had to get really creative in how to speed things up and shorten our schedule. One of the things I realized was we needed to get the ceiling put in quicker. So it was probably I was probably 23 years old, my first project as a project manager, and I needed help getting that ceiling in. So I went to the project manager of the ceiling company and said, look, I really need your guys here this weekend. I know you didn't price this job to work weekends. We can work on that, but I need your help. If you get that in, we can move up the rest of the schedule and do some other things. And he looked at me and said that his superintendent, who was a 65-year-old man who had done work the way he'd done work all his life, he said he's never worked a Saturday in his life, Heather. He's not going to work a Saturday every week. I said, how do I make this happen? He said, you got to go talk to him. So I went out in the field and I found this person and I said, I really need your help. And he looked at me, I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you will get there and put in the ceiling, I will clean up for you. That way your crew can come in, they can put the ceiling in, I'll clean it up, and as soon as y'all finish, you're out of there. You just have to get the work done, I'll clean. Because people don't like to clean at construction sites. And he looked at me and said, if you'll bring me coffee, I'll do it. I brought him coffee, I was there to clean. I walked in that morning, and he started working. He said, come here. And I said, why? He said, I'm going to show you how to, I want you to put in ceiling tile. I said, huh? I don't know how. He said, I'm going to show you how. And you're going to start putting in ceiling tile. Now, him having to stop and show me how to put in ceiling tile made his job longer. But he wanted me to learn something that day. And while I learned how to put in ceiling tile, the biggest lesson I learned was people want to help people who want to help them. By me asking and showing him that I had a need, but also being willing to help him by doing that cleaning, he knew that we had a common purpose to getting that job done for that client. And that was one of the deepest relationships I've had in this business. So project manager. I got to do project management for many years and go into doing different things. Then I started managing people. I've been managing people that were working on the projects that I was working on. The subcontractors, we all had an end date that we were managing. Then I had the opportunity to start managing other people. And that was a whole new learning experience. So not only, because all of a sudden, it wasn't project driven, it wasn't schedule driven. It was learning how to help people motivate themselves and what they wanted and what their biggest drivers were, what their biggest concerns were. And so I started going back to school to learn how to manage people, learn what was important to people. And then I got an opportunity to work on a different campus and a $60 million project. So the projects I'd been running before that were $1 million, $5 million, all with the same client. So all of a sudden we're going to design and build an entire pharmaceutical campus. It was for Synthon Pharmaceuticals and it was going to go in Mebane. They were going to have a manufacturing component, they were going to have an office component, they were going to have a lab component. And we were partnering with a national contractor out of Texas to get this done. But we were leading the design team and then going to do the construction. I was supposed to be an assistant to the project manager that was coming in from Texas. The client liked me. So the client decided he wanted me to lead the team. Again, I had never done this before. So I went home every night and I'm reading books on solid dose delivery, which if you've ever taken a Tylenol, it's the pill that they make. It's the process for making that type of pill. Every week we had experts from all across the world flying in that were designing this facility. And we got the greatest design ever. And the day before we were supposed to start site work, which imagine this entire parking lot plus the demolition area over there, we had 15 big bulldozers, earth-moving equipment. Now that's what gets me really excited about this job. I can move a lot of dirt quickly and it's big equipment. Getting ready to start doing all of this, and the CEO of the company was fired and the project went away. So I said, what do I get to do next? I mean, I don't have a client, I don't have a project. I walked back in my office and they said, you're going to be in business development. Okay, something you may not know about me at this point. I'm one of the most introverted people you will ever meet. Being extroverted is a trained skill for me. Doing business development, going out there and networking, I was terrified. I would walk into a room at a networking event and make myself a promise that if I talked to one person and got a business card and gave them my business card, I could leave. Because I would stand at the door and want to throw up before I walked in there. But I started doing it. I started getting better at doing it. I started meeting people who I liked. And once I meet somebody I like, I can talk to them a lot. And then they would introduce me to other people. So it really was a trained skill for me in networking and business development. The piece that I did know, when I believe in something, I can sell it. And I believed in the people that McDonald York had that were doing projects. So that was the easy part once I met the person. They came into my office one day and said, now you're going to be Chief Operating Officer. What does that mean? Chief Operating Officer is the person who manages the entire company, day-to-day operations. So it's all the project managers, our safety, our accounting, our business development, all the pieces that come together. And so that was about 10 years ago. Have learned a lot doing that. 5 years ago, I became the president of the company. That meant I hired a COO under me, and I started working more strategically about where we go next, doing the plans. And then last year, I became CEO. And as president and CEO, my day is different every day, which is the part I love the most about this job.